Welcome to Keep Expecting Miracles. I'm Ilissa.
And I'm Jessica.
How are you doing, Jessica?
I am good. I woke up with a little congestion. So I'm sipping on my tea and I'm going to make sure that I don't make any extra noises. You may see some funny faces if you're watching on YouTube.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but I'm well. I have a little, caught a little something from the kids it's coming in and it's on its way out.
Okay.
So,
Good.
yeah. How are you?
I'm doing well. We have a big weekend planned. So I've been preparing basically all week for it. It's so crazy how you prepare for so long for something and then like, okay, it's here. We got to do it. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go. So I am preparing for the weekend to spend with family. I did get a lot more sleep that I have been getting last night. The babies
Good.
slept. I feel like
That's a blessing.
it's we're not consistent yet, but anything any sh- 2 4 hour stretch that I can get, I'm like, yeah, I slept
Mm-hmm.
really good. I slept for 2 hours straight,
Right.
which is
I
crazy.
know.
It's
I
crazy, but
know.
yes. So yeah, I had a goal, a personal goal this week. I don't think I was able to make it because my kid. I have a very young child. I have a soon to be 9 month old, and um the sleep schedule, and then I also have a toddler. Like, they wake up early, so I had a personal goal of trying to wake up before them. But when the 3-year-old wakes up at 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. and then I'm still not sleeping good, I'm like, I can't wake up
Mm-hmm.
at 4 a.m. Like, I'm just going back to sleep, like, what the heck.
Yes.
So, but I
I
was
know.
able to have some time last night to myself. Any time that I can get, like, spent in a shower or meditating, listening to something, breathing, um, just a minute to myself, it brings me joy and it renews me. So I am happy I was able to get that. But that brings us to our next topic of just self-care, self-empowerment, like improving
Mm-hmm.
ourselves and just being in a daily
Mm-hmm.
practice. For the I am segment, we wanted to talk about how self-empowerment is not self-worship. That's
Yes.
a taboo topic in the Christian church. It might be in some
Right.
other churches too, but specifically the Christian church. Of We've seen it on social media how some, like, people are commenting on content creators videos saying, like, this is self-worship.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. Like, having time to myself is not, like. So yeah, that's what we
Mm-hmm.
wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, or even the put your what would they say? Like, oh, put your trust in God, not in yourself. But it's like, when I trust myself, my trust is in God. God made me, God is here with me. And, put your belief in God, not your belief in yourself. It's just like, well, if I believe in myself, I also believe in God. When I don't believe in myself, I am a creation of the Lord. The Lord is within me. Why would I not believe in myself? And God meets you there. I can tell you that I personally, there have been times when I didn't believe in myself. And it's like God really had to come forward and let it be known, hello. Like, you need to put some trust in yourself. You need to love yourself. You need to do this. You need to do that. It's only when I have lifted myself up that I have really and truly seen the good grace of the Lord that we read about in the Bible or have heard about in church. Like, it's just I know that there are a lot of people that are going to disagree with this.
Yeah.
And I mean, even some family members, some friends that we have, they're going to disagree with this.
Yeah, I mean, it's what it is that, so many people take the Bible for what it is literally. They don't look at the context of in which it was written, and it just gets blown, it gets twisted, it gets used to control people. I'm just gonna go ahead and
Right.
say it. It's a way to control people. We've seen it throughout
Right.
history. We've seen it within the church. I mean, I went to Christian schools most of my life. Um, very involved in Christian extracurricular activities. Also, it's you are in you are under control,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
much of my values and my morals stem from that. But there was a point in my life that I obviously started to think for myself. I always thought for myself. I always questioned things. I always had questions in the back of my mind. And because you get indoctrinated with stuff, those questions get pushed aside or pushed
Mhm.
back. But now that I'm older and rediscovering things and learning and reading, and you just have different, I have people in my life that don't believe the same things. And how can we say which is better? How can we say, because we're Christian, this is the ultimate religion, and this is the only way that you're going to get into heaven, or this is the only way that you should live your life.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I don't believe that anymore. And you're
Yeah.
right. Some family members are going to be mad. It is what it is.
Hmm. And I know we both listened to the podcast. Here's the thing, with Kev on stage.
Yes. An
If I have
angel.
the title right, yes, with that chick Angel.
That chicken.
And he said that when he was a kid, he asked, he was like, "But what about the little Chinese boy living in China who is a Buddhist who doesn't know Jesus? Does that mean that he's not going to be saved and he's going to go to hell?"
Yeah.
And he said that their response to him was, "Be quiet." Or no, excuse me, it wasn't "be quiet." It was, "If you wanted to sin, then just be a sinner."
Just yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is basically be quiet. That's why that came to mind.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm like, that is exactly, yeah, that's exactly true. That's what it's just like, if they're not able to tell us that, like, that's, if I can't say that's brainwash, like, I don't know what is,
Yeah.
because you're telling me you can't answer that question for me.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can say that it is religious brainwashing. I mean, it does
Yeah.
happen. Um, my family, my parents always encouraged free thinking and free thought.
Mhm.
And, um, of course there were questions, but even though I was in those environments at school, I my cultural background and the way that my mom and my parents were brought up still remained strong. There it wasn't any point in time where the church overtook the beliefs of their upbringing, or just their culture in particular. Like, it that just didn't happen. But Kev on stage, during that episode that you're referencing, they talked about the education level of the pastors back then, like back in the 90s or the early the 80s, whatever you want to call it. Not all of those pastors went to seminary. And Kev on stage did attend seminary, and he talked about how one of his professors told him, like, when you are reading the Bible, when you are referencing the Bible, you have to think about, number one, who's writing it, what was the context, who was it written for, who were they speaking to, and what was the time period. The Bible
Right.
wasn't written in 1 year by one person. It was written over, several different years by
Mhm.
different people. And it
Mhm.
was addressed, it was basically different books, different letters, all compiled into one, addressed to different people.
You're
So
right.
if
Right.
if one letter if one book applies to one group of people, then it's definitely not going to apply to all. We know this now that
Mhm.
we have education. When we apply that to medical, we apply that to the scientific world. Like, why is that not applied to the Bible. Like, it doesn't,
Yes.
everything doesn't apply to everybody. And he said it also too. It's just like, well, they also used to stone women. They
Right.
used to, like, there was so many things that they did in the Bible that that wouldn't even fly. Hello, slavery.
Exactly.
Like, they
That
owned
part.
slaves back then. So now
Mhm.
they own slaves in the Bible. So we can just take that
Mhm.
out of our lives right now, but not take anything else out.
Yeah, and my thing too, I look, I was so gone and lost that it took me until I was an adult listening to Abraham Hicks, and she was like, you have to understand that the time frame in the Bible, the year that it was written, does not apply to you now. There were
Mhm.
not cell phones, there were not this. Women are
Yeah.
wearing pants now, women are working.
Yeah.
Like, it's the time period that was there is not what it is now. So
Yeah.
everything in there does not apply. And I've told you this before, that I've read the Bible from front to back, because I was sick and tired of people coming and telling me things. And you know what? I will say this. I was tired of going to church and hearing what they're saying and not having my own first hand account of reading where it came from. Yeah, it's John chapter 13, but what's going on in that?
Right.
Like, in anyone who is educated and informed knows that you need the whole story. You don't just pick one thing and fly with it.
Right.
So
Yes.
I yeah,
That
so I'm
was another
like,
thing he also said. You have to reference the whole chapter. You can't just
mhm,
pick a verse and then, okay, now this applies. Let me just make a sermon out of this. It
right.
wasn't. It wasn't until Donnell was my husband. It wasn't until Donnell and I were living in Indianapolis, Indiana. We attended a really really good church there. That the model of the church is Jesus exalted, word explained. And that pastor, he is very educated. He did attend seminary. He explained the Bible and applied it to our lives today, right now. But it was one particular sermon that I remember. He explained how if we believe that we are the children of God and that we are an extension of him, if he is our father, why would, as a parent, as a parent, don't you see the gifts from you into your children? Don't your children have your genes? Don't your children have your skill set?
Right.
We possess uh, the gifts that God also performs. We have the gift of intuition. We have the gift of knowing and listening and viewing and seeing. We have there's power in our tongue. So we are powerful
Yep.
beings. God has given that to us, and be empowered and
Yep.
know that. And if we are descendants of Jesus, that was a whole nother thing. That's a different sermon. But if we are descendants of Jesus, why wouldn't we be royal? Why wouldn't we have luxurious things in our life? Why wouldn't we? Yes, Jesus was a very humble man, and there are people, there's particular Christians that believe in being humble and not. That's a whole different conversation. But he talked
Mhm.
about the birthright that we have to want to be empowered and owning financial freedom. It's not about just having stuff. It's about being free and and and,
Right.
and having abundance, okay, and
Mhm.
having abundance in your life,
Mhm.
because we are descendants of God and Jesus. Hello.
But see, and that leads into the whole suffering. Because I suffer, I am a friend of Jesus.
Yeah.
Because I sit here and I suffer.
Yeah.
Jesus suffered because so that we didn't have to suffer. You
Yeah.
don't have to suffer. That is the biggest takeaway that I have received over the last few years, especially after the retreat, is that yes, there are things that you have to go through. Yes, there are trials and tribulations that you will go through. Life is not all peachy keen, because we're here to learn our lessons.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't have to be something that completely ruins you. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be like, you can approach things in a way where you're still able to smile, still able to find joy in each day
Yeah.
while going through these troubles. And that's that's what I feel that the message needs to be more so. It
Yes.
needs to be more so of that, like, feed yourself, love yourself so that you can do this, so that you can feel good. Because when you're withholding from yourself, or even, there are people who will even look at those who do have nice things and have, or feel, oh, you're showing off, or you're doing this and that, and stop themselves from getting these things, stop themselves from even putting themselves in a space where they can even, or a position to purchase certain things, let's say, or to live a certain lifestyle, because they're like, oh, well, I don't want to be like one of them. I
Yeah.
don't want to be, God loves me because I am so financially humble and frugal. And yeah, so I mean, God loves everyone. We're all here. We are all equal
Yeah.
in that way. But our happiness, God honors our happiness. Are
Yes.
you happy withholding from yourself? Are you happy? So you don't have to, that is the way to salvation, is not in deprivation and suffering. End of
Yes.
story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. End of story. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. Well, that brings us to that was a good segue to our next segment. I said what I said, our manifestation segment, where we either share a listener story, or we share a personal story, or we just sit up here and talk about what we want to manifest. Um, but Jessica has a really good story, manifestation story about abundance, that she's
Okay.
going to share. Yes.
I'm going to share my story with the world. Alyssa knows this, so here I'm going to be speaking to all of you. I'm going to prepare myself on YouTube so that I can explain this and come out in the open, because, Lord, let me tell you, it is hard and scary for me to be saying these things
Yes.
on a platform for others to hear,
Yeah.
because I am not I guess you could say, normal person. I want to say I'm normal for the people who know, like, when I talk about these things, it's just to people who, like, are in our groups and stuff, and
Yes.
that I go to, like, full moon ceremonies with, or drum circles. It's normal life for us.
Yes.
But to speak about this to the masses, um it's difficult. So I will just say, this is one way, that back in 2020 COVID times, that's what I call it, the COVID times. Um, my husband and I, we own a company, that requires crowds. It requires events. It requires, a lot of people to get together. And that's mostly how we were getting paid. So once the world was shut down, all of the events that were planned weren't going to be happening. It didn't seem like it was a thing where we were going to be able to come back immediately, right? So this is March of, like, we were actually even at an event. We were working TPC, which is the Tavistock golfing tournament. We ended 2 days early, had to pack up, everybody had to go home. We didn't know what life was going to be like afterward. As I think about this, I'm like, gosh, it's like, I feel like we lived, like, through, like, almost like a world war kind of thing. Like, it was this very dystopian
Yeah.
kind of society that was going on, and we
Yes.
lived through that. If you're here right now, God,
Yeah.
we made
Yeah.
it through.
Yeah.
um
Literally. Literally.
Yes. So in that time, I had to work on myself. I was given the chance to work on myself. I was walking every day. Everyone was home. I'm walking around my neighborhood every day because I'm someone who needs sunlight and who needs exercise daily. And I am listening to a song by Chloe and Halle. It's called Everywhere. And in the song, they sing, I got money everywhere falling from the trees. So then, as I'm walking and I'm talking with God, that's where I commune, right? As I'm walking, I'm praying, I'm talking, I'm like, so give me ideas. Like, and I just had this idea of visualizing money coming from the trees. So I'm walking and I see, okay, well, the leaves are dollar bills that are just hanging down. These are dollar bills. And then I'm like, the grass. The grass are all bills, money, bills, all paper money on the leaves,
Wow.
like, on the tree, paper money in the ground, on the ground. If I were to see like people that were, cutting the grass, I'm like, look at all that money over there. I could just
Wow.
go over there and I can grab it if I want to. And my
Yeah.
thing was like, well, I don't have to grab it because it's so abundant in my life that I can just admire it. And I don't need it right now because there isn't a need for it. It's just
Yeah.
here. And when I want to, I'll have it. When I need it, it'll be here because it's always here. It's right outside my front door. And so that helped me feel worthy, even looking at the tree trunks, right? As I'm looking at the trunks of the trees, the bark and everything, I'm like, that's not bark. That's not a tree trunk. Instead, it's made up of gold coins that are stacked one by one together.
Wow.
And so I was like,
Wow.
in Revelations, they talk about the streets of gold and the way that we'll be feeling and walking. And I was like, this is my now.
Mm.
The street is paved of gold. This is, so I
Mhm.
wasn't just walking in my neighborhood. It was like I was walking in a dream, just imagining these things. And, well, 2020 was the year that I made my company and even myself made the most amount of money that I've ever made at that
Wow.
time.
Wow.
Income increased by 75%.
Wow.
Um, and I was just like, I did not. I know that it happened that way for a lot of people. And yes, I'm just gonna be open. The EIDL, the PPP, that stuff helped. That was a
Mhm.
part of it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know at the time that that's what was coming. I had
Right.
no idea. I was just like, how am I going to feed my kids? How are we going to live? Like, we didn't know. I felt like I was just at a loss. And
Mm.
I needed to I needed to feel God's grace on me by imagining that for myself to help to lift myself up so that I can be open to receiving. And so once it turned out that there are these pathways to receiving the funds that you need, it was, man, for some reason everything worked. Everything was good. We had then full-time employees too, that we didn't have full-time employees before then. And like we had people working through the whole, like, it was amazing. And I'm happy to say that things we have not had to turn back. Like, I remember that point as a turning point in my life, and I hold on to that, knowing that no matter what happens, I'm always going to be okay because I am
Mm.
highly favored. And
Yes.
I have proof when I trust and
Yes.
have faith and believe it's gonna work out no matter what.
It's gonna work out. I've heard that story before, but I have
Mhm.
chills. I literally have chills listening to that. Like, could you imagine if you didn't feel empowered? If
Yeah.
you were just stuck in a mindset of I mean, I know people have seen this meme on social media, like somebody's praying for God to come and save them. God, come and save me, come and save me, come and save me. And God sends a boat, God sends a plane, God sends a person, he sends a thought, sends an idea, he sends a message, and you're missing it because you're literally physically waiting on him when you're not aware,
Right.
you're not open, you're not empowered to see the other things that he has sent. Could you imagine?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is what we want to share and empower people to do. Like, God is here in your everyday life.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
All you have to do is be open and aware.
Yeah.
Wake your mind up. Let your neural pathways form different pathways.
Mhm.
Expose yourself to,
Yeah.
books, podcasts, songs. Like you said, it was a song. It was a song that
Yeah.
awakened that. And girl, I love that. That's
Yes,
what's
when
like,
I
you
tell
have to
you,
tell that story. It's so good.
yeah, if I was not open to this, I would have been afraid to make the moves that
Mm.
we made in order to receive the funds. It was not easy. It was difficult. It was a stretch for me, but I had to believe, like, well, I'm believing this now, and yeah, this is maybe the way that it will come, so let's just try it.
Let's try it.
It's, yeah, let's just see. I don't think I told my brother the story before, but there was one time when he needed some help, And we ended up
Mm,
being in the same place at the same time. And I looked out for him. I was like, hey. He was like, oh, like he didn't expect to see me. I didn't expect to see him. And he
mhm,
was like, I've just been really praying that I would get help with this. And at the time, I had what he needed.
mm.
I was like, don't you realize what just happened? It's coming through me. I'm in
Yes,
a position where I'm able to help you here.
yes,
And that's he was like, no, I can't do, not from you. And I'm like, you can't do that. You don't know how your blessing is going to come. You've asked for it to come. You
right.
have to be open to receiving it.
Yes. Yes, that's beautiful. Well, thank you for being brave and sharing that on this
Yeah.
podcast with us for the world to hear. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm sure others will too, and it's going to inspire a lot of people. So, thank you for that.
I hope
Um,
so.
yes, yes. So we're going to get right into our I got an herb for that. I got an herb for that segment, which
Mhm.
it fits. It's blue lotus. The herb of
Yes.
this week is blue lotus. It is about mind opening, third eye opening, expansion. It's an
Mhm.
ancient flower that was used during the Egyptian times, and they would use the herb, drink it. Some even might even smoked it. To because you can smoke it. You can make a tea out of it. You can make a tincture. Jessica makes wonderful blue lotus tinctures. To open up your mind, literally open up your mind. Um, they would use it to put themselves in a meditative state in order to be closer to their divinity, to hear
Mhm.
messages from spirit, to hear guidance from spirit. I mean, we know the Egyptians were geniuses. We still don't know how those pyramids were built without the modern technology
Mhm.
that we have today. We wouldn't even be able to build them now with the technology that we have today. So they were tapped in. They were tapped in. So
Right.
when we discovered blue lotus, we're like, this is what the Egyptians use. Oh, we using this. We got to get on this. So yeah, we wanted to share that
Yeah.
with you today.
Yes, I love Blue Lotus. Blue Lotus is my go-to, especially right now. I was holding up my tincture earlier for those of you that are watching on YouTube. This is
Yes.
my. I wish that I had the flower right here. I'm like, man, I could have showed you guys,
Yeah,
but it's okay.
it's okay.
But it grows in that swampy water, and Blue Lotus really helps me feel as it opens up a pathway for me to receive, right? But it helps me feel grounded.
Mm,
It really helps me feel grounded, and I use it during my moon for menstrual support. Right, it just relaxes my body from the
mm,
cramping, from feeling crampy. It also helps me go to sleep. So if I want to, let's say I'm looking for God to answer some messages that I'm having a hard time receiving, if I ask something that I have a really really difficult time not worrying about, I take Blue Lotus so that I can calm the worry, and then it helps you go to sleep. It helps you have those dreams that you're looking for that has the answers. It's sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes all you need is rest, and that's what it helps you do.
yes. Oh,
how do
that's
you
what I
how do you
take it
use
for.
it?
For sleep, for rest.
Yeah.
The small time frame that I was taking it as a tea, and then I have had the tincture before too.
Hmm.
It definitely helps you go to sleep and stay asleep and dream. Like you said, you do
Hmm.
dream. Um I am somebody that, like, if something is for sleep or relaxation, I have to only take it during those times of
Yeah.
sleep and relaxation because it's gonna knock me out. um so yeah, and I do know that different herbal companies sell it in smoke form, like herbal
Hmm. Hmm.
smokes.
Yeah.
So that you can purchase it that way, but it's an amazing herb. Um, and I hope to only discover more ways to take it, during in ceremony.
Right.
doing a yoni steam, and I want to experience it that way too. So yeah, we definitely had to share that, and
That's a good idea.
yeah,
I might have to do that
yeah,
because I need
girl.
some relaxation.
Yeah. Oh, and
Loosen
it
up the
even
muscles.
and you don't even know what. Look, we put it in the yoni steam. Put a flower
Hmm.
in the yoni steam, and then consuming it however you want to by mouth, but
Yeah,
it's definitely gonna
that's
open
what I
your.
mean. The I know I'm sharing this on the podcast, but I feel like people need to know because they always talk about when you have babies, then you just get stretched out. No, sometimes you get like a tightened.
Yeah.
So, what I've
Yeah.
had to focus on doing, especially with a lot of the herbs that I work with are relaxing herbs because all of my muscles, including my yoni muscles, are just locked. And I
Mm,
have to practice loosening, releasing, allowing things to flow.
yes.
It's had to, it's a practice that I do all the time. And so I realized, like, in my yoni steam, I was using astringent herbs. I was using those tightening, drying kind of thing where I'm like, of course that's what you want to do when it comes to that area. But
Yeah.
um I told myself, I'm like, look, I'm gonna have to start putting um some relaxing plants in there, just to
Yeah.
see what that could be like, what that would be like. 'Cause so I think that blue lotus would be really helpful, especially because it's a plant of the moon, a flower of the moon,
Yes.
which,
Yes.
as you have shared before, is wonderful for our womanly parts.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Hmm.
Because we are beings of the moon. Yes, we are.
Hmm.
So we also wanted to include during this episode, during our witchy shit segment, just people that inspired us, that continue to inspire us, that we are learning from, that we you know are in contact with and receive guidance from, on our journey. So yeah, they they do refer to themselves as witches. I have heard them say that they are witches. They are healers, they are spiritual teachers. And so one person that I know that has inspired both of us, but me in particular, with on my womb healing journey, is Sylvia Ancestral. She
Yes.
is a spiritual teacher and healer, natal chart reader from Costa Rica. We met her on our retreat, and we're still in contact with her to this day.
Hmm.
I've grown very close with her, and she just really encouraged me to start my womb healing journey and make it my own, um, and do what works for me. And she encouraged me to find other people in the womb healing space in Arizona where I was living, and I did that, and I found those people, which is so crazy, like shortly after I got back from the retreat, and they're my close friends today also. She was like a catalyst for that journey, and I'm very, very grateful to her, and I just want to show her and send her so much love right now.
Yes.
um
Look, she was part of the reason why Costa Rica was so life changing for me.
mm,
She did our reading, or at least let me speak for myself. She did my reading, and she was like, "You have a mother wound here." I was like, "A mother wound? No, I don't. I have a father wound. Like, I know I have wounds on my father's side, because of that's the side that has like the Scottish and Irish and stuff, and all of the not so nice things that happen there."
mm-mm.
She was like, "No, you have a mother wound." So I was like, "Okay." She goes, "Go and, if you can, call your mom and find out how your grandmother died." I was like, "Okay." So I go walk away from her, go sit on the beach. I was like, "Mommy, I met with this lady."
Right, right.
'Cause I'm like, how do I tell her this? I'm like, "I met with this lady here. I'm in Costa Rica, and she said to find out how grandma died." She was like, "Yeah, don't you know?" I was like, "No." and I think it was a stroke, right? She's like, oh no. The story that she told me was not what I knew.
Was what? Yeah.
Meanwhile, I was a child, but I'm like, Sylvia, what? I'm
Yes.
like, you knew to
Yes.
tell me, go. You knew that that was a secret that was not really being hidden. My mother didn't realize it was a secret. So then I call my aunts. I'm like, did you guys know this? And they're like, oh yeah, you didn't know? No, I didn't know. Like,
Wow.
thanks for letting me know now. And
Right.
it's
Right.
her cause of death has helped me now. Like it helped open so many
Yeah.
doors for me
Yeah.
as far as like making sure that I'm taking care of myself, protecting myself, and just
Yes.
like really focused on me so that, stories don't repeat.
Yes.
So I love Sylvia. One
Yes.
person that I really like who actually really helped me, and still to this day helps me, is Abraham Hicks, which I mentioned her earlier.
Mhm.
She is someone that you can watch videos on.
Mhm.
She's someone that you can find on like podcasts, and she goes to different places, to do shows and stuff. She's even come here to Orlando to the Kia Center. And the reason why I like her so much is because she is the one that helped to reel me back in. I started studying and becoming closer to God after leaving my career in teaching because I just felt like, what is life? Who am I?
Mhm.
My career was who I was,
Yeah.
but my career was hurting me. And then now it's like, well, my sustenance is no longer coming from these people. It's no
Mm.
longer coming from the county. Where
Mhm.
do I get my sustenance from? And of course, the answer to that was God. And
Yeah.
Abraham Hicks, she opened up, and I'm saying she says we should say they because what she does, who she is a channeler. So she
Mhm.
channels Abraham from the Bible and speaks from the point of view of Abraham to the world now.
Mm.
And yeah, that's been very helpful for me.
Yeah. Yes. Another spiritual teacher. I have not met her in person, but I will one day. Her name is Empress Karen Rose, and all these people will have their links to their Instagram pages um down below, and in the description. We'll have them in the description. But Empress Karen Rose, that's her name on Instagram. She is of Caribbean descent. She's Guyanese. She owns an apothecary and an herbal school in New York. She teaches spiritual herbalism. She has several books. One is called African Spiritual Herbalism, and it's been very pivotal for me in my herbalism journey and my healing journey. Just how she really connects to African ancestry and infuses that in the teaching. She does weekly, monthly astrology readings on her Instagram, and they are always very, very accurate. It's not like it's predicting the future. It's just what is the energy of right now. What And she ties that into maybe what herbs or teas that you could be drinking. So I hope to one day have her on our podcast and interview her and
That would be amazing.
attend her school. I want to be one of her students.
Yes,
Everybody says her
you
program
will.
is life changing, and I definitely want to. Queen Afua is also another major person that we
Yes.
looked to when we first started. I Queen Afua was not somebody who was new to me, but she was
Hmm.
reintroduced to me when I started my womb healing journey, because she is very much about clean living,
Hmm.
veganism. um she's yeah, veganism, spiritual cleansing. um
Yeah.
she's somebody that believes in the divine feminine. She teaches from ancient Kemet, again, ancient Egypt. um
Hmm.
and that book, her book Sacred Woman, we both have gone through it. Jessica has read it. She does a
Yeah.
lot of reading and studying, but we both have used Queen of Fua's book a lot. So she's another person that we want to hopefully have here on the podcast, who we love, who
Yes.
inspire us, who we learn from. And then
Another one
also,
for me.
oh
Oh,
yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
sorry, I was gonna
Go
say you can go ahead.
ahead.
You can go. I'm just gonna take up all the time.
Okay, I was on that herbal tip. Paula Herlock,
Oh,
where
okay.
she follows. She's Jamaican, so it's from my island. And Paula, I listen to. She to her on YouTube. That's where you can find her. She's on Instagram. It's Paula Herlock. She's brand new to me. I just found her this year, and she's really good when it comes to um, being able to speak in a way that is not like too woo out there, like
Mhm.
reeling people in.
Mhm.
This is what your body needs to be eating. This is what feeds you. These are the herbs that help with this,
Yeah.
as well as this is how you should be. This is how you should think about this and this and that. Not saying that she's, when I say this is how you should think, it sounds like brainwashing. Not like that. But she really helps with that more expansive, more open for receiving kind of mental process that
Right.
we're missing from a lot of people in
Right.
the world.
Right. Well, I have
Yeah,
to.
what were you gonna say?
I have to also to mention my first spiritual teacher, my mommy.
Yes.
Yes, my mom Isa. She much of her spirituality is just from who she is, her sense of self. She
Mm-hmm.
loves to say, "I know who I am," and people can't take that away from me. So
Mm-hmm.
I get that from her, but also my grandmother. I mentioned her in our last episode and how she very, very much believes in food, natural healing foods, unprocessed um food, herbs. She would eat a piece of ginger every morning. She would have it just in her refrigerator. Aloe would be in her yard. She would use that. Just so many different herbs and foods from her country, Panama. She's West Indian. So I have to mention those two people. Also, my auntie Phyllis. Like I said, my family is very spiritual. My auntie
Mm-hmm.
Phyllis introduced my entire family to the world of aromatherapy with Young Living oils. She would have us around healers and people doing women's circles. Right as I graduated from college, I attended a women's circle with my aunt and her friends. My aunt healed herself of breast cancer. Um,
Wow.
she healed herself with prayer, clean eating, essential oils, strong support.
Mm-hmm.
So she is definitely a spiritual teacher that I have
That's
to mention.
amazing. I think you told me that, but
Mhm.
I didn't remember. And that's always something that I always recognize about your family too, where
Mhm.
you'd be like, yes, we have the way that you would speak about God was always different. And it would always like when a dog hears something, they perk their ear up. And like
Mhm.
that's what it would do for me, like internally, where I'm like, she's speaking on a different level. I'm like,
Mm,
what is this? But that's amazing. Like, look,
yeah.
we're on the witchy shit segment, and it sounds like that's a whole family full of witches.
Yeah. That's what
Like
we
completely
say.
healing yourself from that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's amazing. You know what? I have to shout out to my mother too because she is the number one truth seeker. She's the reason why I read and research so much. When I come and tell her
Mm.
things, she's like, "Oh yeah, yeah." She already knows. Yes. And
Wow.
my
Yeah.
grandmother for the food, look, I am like, it's the I would say my mom is the second coming of her own mother. I would be
Mm.
the third coming of her.
Yes.
So
Oh
yeah.
yes. And we're gonna get into that in another episode of our ancestors that have passed on, and how they have
Yes.
inspired us. So yeah. Um this was a good one. This was a good episode.
Yes,
This
it
is a good
was. Thank
talk.
you so much for joining
Yes,
us.
thank you for joining us. Follow us on Instagram at Keep Expecting Miracles Pod. Follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can watch full episodes on YouTube. And send us your manifestation stories if you have a
Please.
story that you want to share on how you manifested something, what you included, what you did, what tools you used, the situation and the outcome in the email at keep expecting miracles at gmail.com. Keep expecting miracles at gmail.com. Also, if you want to talk about just something you want to manifest, say, hey, I'm manifesting this. Can you help me? Can you share it on the podcast? Can you broadcast it? Because we do believe that these podcasts help in manifesting things. Because, like Jessica said in the last episode, the more people hear it, the more people agree to what you want, and it is out there in the universe and it will happen. So, please
Mm-hmm.
email us, message us on Instagram, follow us, rate, like, us, rate this podcast, and we will be putting out new episodes every Monday. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for joining. Bye bye.
Bye.